Welcome back tonight. You're not just going to hear a story, you're going to live it. Briefly, regretfully, you are a knocker-upper in 15th century England, which, contrary to what the name suggests, involves neither fun nor appreciation. Just a stick and wet shoes. Forget what you've heard about medieval mornings. The sun rising over misty hills, the smell of bread in the air, the soft rustle of linen gowns in candlelight. No, this is 3:30 in the morning. This is a leaking roof, a bowl of sadness porridge, and a dog that hates you personally. This is waking up the village, one window at a time, and getting thanked exactly never. And just a heads up, you probably won't survive until breakfast, not from violence, from disappointment, possibly from airborne footwear. So go ahead. Like this video if your fingers haven't frozen off yet. Comment where you are and what ungodly hour this is. Did you eat today? Would Sir Geoffrey yell at you anyway? Now dim the lights. Wrap yourself in the scratchiest blanket you can find. Bonus points if it smells faintly of mildew and resentment. If you've got a stick nearby, hold it. You'll need the emotional support. Congratulations. It's 3:14 a.m. Your toes are purple. Your job is to hit shutters until people yell, "Welcome to your morning shift." You wake up because your foot is wet. Not damp. Not moist. Wet. Like someone boiled a rat and poured the broth directly onto your blanket. Congratulations. It's 3:14 a.m. You've been asleep for a whole 3 hours. Luxury? You sit up. Or try to. Your lower back reminds you that sleeping on straw isn't just uncomfortable, it's character development. You peel the blanket off. It smells like wet wool, mold, and your uncle's broken dreams. Your toes are purple, not metaphorically. You wiggle them just to make sure they're still part of you. The roof leaked again. It always leaks when it rains. And it always rains. Because this is England, in the 1400s. You're not sure it ever didn't rain. You fumble in the dark for your stick, your mighty waking staff, your professional tool, your one true companion. It's next to the fire pit, still sticky from the time you used it to shoo a goose out of the laundry. You pick it up. It feels cold, damp, and slightly alive. You glance around the room. Your mother is snoring. Your father is muttering something about taxes in his sleep. Your little brother is sucking on the corner of the only clean blanket, which means it's no longer clean. You slip on your shoes, or what used to be shoes. Now they're just leather suggestions held together by hope and string. Left foot squishes, right foot crunches. You don't want to know why. You step outside. The wind hits you like a tax collector with anger issues. It cuts through your tunic, your skin, and possibly your soul. You trudge through mud that's trying to become soup. First stop, the blacksmith's house. He wakes at 4, or he throws horseshoes at you. Sometimes both. You reach the window. It's on the 2nd floor. Of course it is. You take a breath, count to 3, and tap the stick. Once. Twice. 3 sharp knocks. Nothing. You knock again, harder. A shutter swings open. A boot flies out. You duck just in time. It lands in manure behind you. A voice snarls, "Later!" You sigh. Your job isn't to make them happy. It's to make them awake. Next stop, the baker. She sleeps through storms, sermons, and screaming babies, which is unfortunate because her dog does not. And he sees you coming. You run. Your stick flaps under your arm like a dying flag. The rain stings your eyes. The dog barks. The ground is slipping out from under you. It's 3:37 a.m., and you've only woken 1.5 people. You stop to catch your breath in the alley behind the tannery. The smell is robust, like someone boiled despair in a leather pouch. You close your eyes, just for a second, just to pretend, but you can't, because the stick in your hand is still cold, and your next window is 3 streets away. And the rain just got worse. Welcome to your morning. It's not heroic. It's not glorious. It's wet. It's dark. And it's barely begun. You drag your stick like a broken limb. Your arms ache. Your boots squelch. And somewhere behind you, that baker's dog is still barking at the ghost of your dignity. Your next stop is Master Thorne, the town's cooper. He makes barrels by day and snores like a demon by night. His window is jammed, his shutters are cursed, and his attitude is legendary. You reach up with the stick and knock once, then twice, then tap in rhythm, because that's how his wife likes to be woken up. No answer. You knock harder. The stick thuds against the wooden panel like a beggar's complaint. Still nothing. You reach higher. Stretch. The stick wobbles. You almost fall. Your foot slides on something unidentifiable and probably alive. And then, crack! The window bursts open. A full chamber pot sails past your left ear. It hits the ground with a noise that can't be forgiven. Thorne shouts something involving goats and your mother. You bow, sarcastically, and move on, because you have a list and sleep isn't on it. You cross the square. The stones are slick with rain and last night's regrets. You avoid the bodies sleeping under the awning, or maybe they're sacks. It's hard to tell. Next, old widow Marn. She pays in carrots and insults. You knock on her shutter. She opens it immediately, eyes blazing, nightcap askew. You're late, she snaps. You check the sky. You are not late, but thank you. You want to hear her say? She does not say it. She throws a parsnip at you. It hits your knee. You nod and catch it before it rolls into a puddle. It is your only breakfast. You continue on. The stick is heavier now. Or maybe your spirit is. Every house is the same. Knock, yell, avoid projectiles. Repeat. You wake the candlemaker's apprentice. He groans and spits at the ground. You wake the miller's son. He flips you off with the enthusiasm of someone who still believes in sleep. You wake the pig boy. He throws pig dung at your legs. Misses, thankfully. The pig does not. It nuzzles your hip. You're now covered in something that smells like fermented oats and regret. And in all this effort, the bruises, the shouts, the frostbite creeping into your fingernails, not one soul says thank you. Not one, because your job is invisible. Like the sunrise before the rooster lies about it. Like the breath before the scream. You don't get applause. You get window snot, airborne shoes, and a shoulder that's been out of alignment since you fell off the ladder last fall. You stop for a moment under the overhang of the chapel. The bell hasn't rung yet. Neither has your sense of purpose. You look down at your stick. It's warped, splintered, damp, much like your faith in humanity. But you keep walking, because that's what you do. You wake the world, even when it hates you for it. You check your list. Again, smeared with mud, torn at the edges, written in charcoal that bled in last week's storm, but still legible, barely. Next name, Sir Geoffrey Alderton. A name that smells like money and misplaced confidence. Sir Geoffrey is what happens when inbreeding meets bureaucracy. He sleeps in a manner slightly too small to be impressive, but just big enough to remind everyone that he inherited it. He's a magistrate. He's late for court, and that, apparently, will be your fault. You approach the manor. The gate creaks like it's auditioning for a horror play. The dog doesn't bark, because he has a servant just for that. You tap the stick on the window, rhythmically, firmly, politely. No answer. You knock again. Still nothing. You mutter under your breath and knock harder. Stick raised high. channeling every ounce of frustration from every thankless morning. Finally, the window slams open. Sir Geoffrey appears, shirtless, hair like hay, eyes bloodshot, mouth wide and angry. "You!" he growls. "You were supposed to wake me an hour ago." You blink. You point to the sky, still black like a nun's habit. You tap the stick. Again, he doesn't care. "I missed the candlelight call. I'll be late to court." You want to explain that you were here, that you knocked, that maybe he should sleep less like a drunk rock in a wool hat. But instead, you just stand there, soaked, cold, holding a stick like it's your last shred of identity. "I'll be writing to the bailiff," he says, slamming the shutter, as if that's a threat. As if anyone reads. You sigh. Then, on instinct, you reach into the pouch tied to your waist, pull out a clump of mud, and smear it across his door. In it, you draw a symbol. Nothing vulgar, just your mark. It means, "I was here, not for revenge, not for credit, but for the record, for the truth, because Sir Geoffrey will claim you failed, and everyone will believe him, because he has a seal, and you have a stick." You sit on the stone step, letting the rain pool in the crease of your neck. Your list flaps in the wind. Next name, next window. No one will thank you, but they will all blame you. If they're late, if it rains, if their egg cracks on the wrong side, and that is your job, the first to rise, the first to suffer, and always, the first to take the fall. Welcome to the morning shift. It's now, probably 7 a.m., maybe 8. The sun is technically up, but it looks like it hit the snooze button. Twice. You've been awake for nearly 5 hours. You've walked 3 miles, knocked on 13 shutters, been insulted in 6 unique ways, and your last meal was, let's call it experimental pottage, 3 nights ago. So yes, you're hungry. Starving, actually. But breakfast, that's a concept, a myth, a bedtime story. Nobles tell their children, you shuffle back home. If you can call a moldy room shared with 6 people and 1 chicken home, your mother greets you with the enthusiasm of someone who forgot she had kids. She hands you a bowl. You stare into it. Gray, lumpy, steaming, slightly, but not in a good way. It's porridge, or what's left of it, reheated for the 3rd time. Half oat, half ash, all despair. You take a bite. It tastes like someone boiled wood shavings in Bad Decisions. You chew, and chew, and chew. No one speaks. Your little brother is licking the bowl. Not his bowl, your bowl. Your father sits in the corner, gnawing on bread so hard it echoes. You're not sure if it's bread or just a cleverly disguised rock. Someone offers you a cup of ale. You decline, not because you're noble, but because it was brewed last spring and smells like regret in liquid form. You glance at the windowsill. There's a turnip. It has a face carved into it, for no clear reason. It's your sister's imaginary friend. You envy it. It doesn't have to eat this. You finish the bowl. Scrape the last bit with a crust that draws blood from your gums. The bowl's bottom has a crack. So does your faith in carbohydrates. Then, just as you think you might rest, your mother drops a sack in your lap. "Feed the chickens," she says. They're upset. You don't ask why. You just go. Outside, the air is marginally less miserable. The mud has evolved. Now it's sentient. You sink ankle deep with every step. A chicken squawks at you like you owe it money. You do. You stole its warmth last night when you slept too close. You scatter feed. It's mostly sawdust. The chickens look at you with disdain. One pecks your finger. You sigh. Wipe your hand on your tunic and head back in. Back inside to fetch your stick. Because no matter how empty your stomach is, your list isn't. And lunch. That's a fantasy reserved for people who matter. You don't matter. But you do knock very well. There's a brief pause in your torment schedule, roughly half an hour, just enough time to do everything and rest from none of it. You sit on a crooked bench near the hearth. A sliver stabs your thigh, but you don't flinch. That's called emotional numbness, and it's the closest thing you have to armor. Your mother tosses you a bundle of linen and a needle. "Patch your trousers," she says. You glance down. There's a rip in a place you'd rather not display publicly. You thread the needle with shaking fingers. It's made from bone. So is the chair. So is your hope. At this point, every stitch is a new prayer. Don't tear again. Don't stab yourself. Don't die in mended pants. That's just embarrassing. Your little sister walks by and tells you it looks like you're sewing with your feet. You don't reply. You can't. You're concentrating on not bleeding. Next task. Empty the chamber pot. It sloshes ominously. You carry it like it's a relic from hell, which, arguably, it is. Outside, you walk past the neighbor's boy. He waves, then points to your bucket and gags. You consider flinging a drop his way. You don't. Not because you're kind, just because it's windy, and your luck is historically awful. You dump the pot in the ditch behind the house. Something hisses. You don't investigate. Back inside, your mother hands you the laundry pile. You ask where to wash it. She points to the same stream where the pigs bathe. You sigh. Again. That's your second sigh this hour. You're keeping count now. It's the only thing you can control. You gather the shirts, most of which are stiff with something. Out to the stream you go, stepping carefully to avoid the pig that always farts when startled. You kneel by the water. It's cold. Of course it is. You dunk the clothes, scrub them with a rock. The soap is missing. You use mud. The clothes are not cleaner, just different. A new shade of despair. The pigs squeal nearby. One of them steps on your foot. You scream internally. Externally, you just grunt, like a man who's accepted his destiny as a doormat. As you wring out the final tunic, you realize it smells worse than before. You stop asking why. On the way home, a man you don't know hands you a note. It's for his cousin, across the village. You're now a mail carrier. Congratulations. You deliver the note. The cousin opens it, reads it, and slaps you. Wrong cousin, wrong house, wrong face. You return home with a red cheek and a muddy tunic. Your sister laughs. Your mother shrugs. Your father asks if you've finished rewiring the thatched roof. You haven't. You never will. But you pick up your stick again, because break time is over, and misery, unlike you, is always punctual. You lie down for just a moment, just to stretch your back, just to rest your eyelids, just to pretend you're not a walking warning about overemployment. The shed behind your house is quiet. By medieval standards, this means only some chickens are screaming. You curl up on a sack of turnips. They're softish, slightly less lumpy than your straw bed. One pokes your spine. That's fine. Pain is familiar. Pain means you're still alive. You whisper to yourself, 10 minutes, no more. And then you close your eyes. The silence is beautiful. Your brain starts to drift. You imagine bread, not just any bread, warm bread, with texture and dignity. You slip into that sweet nothingness called almost sleep. Then, whack, something hits your leg. You jolt upright, ready to swing. It's the neighbor's 6-year-old holding your stick, chewing on it. You late, he says, mouth full of splinters. What? He points to the manor house, Sir Geoffrey again. Apparently, he rang the bell. Apparently, no one came. Apparently, you fell asleep. You blink. Your mouth tastes like turnip dust and guilt. You grab the stick. It's soggy now. And bolt. The sky is brighter, but your future isn't. At the manor, the butler opens the door and sneers like you just insulted his eyebrows. You had one job, he hisses. Sir Geoffrey is fuming inside. Not because he missed anything important, but because his ego wasn't coddled on schedule. You apologize professionally. By nodding and accepting verbal abuse like a sponge made of shame, he throws a half-eaten scone at your feet. As a warning, or a gift, or both. You leave with your stick, your headache, and your reputation slightly more ruined than it was this morning. You return to the shed, but your spot on the turnip sack is taken by the goat. The goat that never liked you. You sit in the mud instead. Eyes open, stick in hand. Because you learned your lesson. You nap. You lose. Especially when your pillow has horns. The sun has decided it's done with this day. So have you. You trudge home smelling like wet wood, animal judgment, and societal failure. Your boots gave up 2 hours ago. Now it's just sock against sludge. The stick in your hand feels heavier, like it's absorbing the weight of your dignity in real time. Home greets you with the warm aroma of smoke and boiling disappointment. Your family is gathered around the hearth, not for bonding, for warmth, and to make sure the soup doesn't escape. You squeeze in next to your uncle, who hasn't spoken a full sentence in 8 years and only communicates through coughs. He nods at you, or maybe that was a muscle spasm. Your mother ladles something into your bowl. It's gray. Again, consistency, somewhere between glue and regret. Contents, unknown, possibly illegal. It's rabbit, she says. You see no rabbit. You do. However, see a small tail floating at the edge of your bowl. You don't ask. You eat, slowly, carefully. Each bite is a texture journey. At one point, something crunches. You pretend it was seasoning. Across the room, your little brother is licking the wall. He says it tastes like salt. You hope it's just salt. Your sister offers you a piece of bread. It's hard enough to be used as a blunt weapon. You take it anyway. Your teeth cry out in protest. And then, movement. On the beam above you, 2 mice, maybe 3. One stares down, like a landlord collecting rent. The other drags something suspiciously breadcrumb-shaped back into the ceiling. Your father claps his hands to shoo them. They don't care. They've been here longer than you. They pay no rent and still live better. Conversation begins. Uncle grunts. Mother mutters about the neighbor's goat again. Your father asks what you even do all day. You say, I wake the village. He scoffs. People wake up on their own. You stare at him. He slept through a lightning strike last spring and blamed you for the smell. Your sister laughs. She's 9 and already more cynical than a bishop with back pain. Someone asks if you're going to inherit anything someday. You say yes. Probably this bowl, with the crack and the faint smell of boiled moss. Everyone nods. That's fair. You finish your dinner. It's somehow colder than when you started. You place the bowl down, only to find that one of the mice is already licking the rim. You don't stop it. It deserves something nice today, too. Dinner's done. Or more accurately, has stopped. Your stomach isn't full, just confused. But there's no rest. Because it's prayer time. You grab your cloak, still damp from last week, and head toward the chapel. Everyone must attend, even you, especially you, because sleepiness, you're told, is a moral failing. The chapel is cold enough to preserve meat, which is fitting, since you're basically jerky with opinions now. The priest begins with fire, not literal fire. No one can afford candles, just shame. He preaches about sloth, about how the devil nestles and yawns in lazy eyelids. You try to focus, but your brain is doing that soft buzzing thing again. Your eyes blur. The priest becomes 2 priests, then 3. Then, a talking turnip. You slap yourself awake. Across the aisle, a noble woman coughs daintily into a scented cloth. You cough into your sleeve and get a judgmental look from a nearby goat. Yes, the goat attends regularly. He's better dressed than you. The sermon drags. The priest switches topics. Those who rise early are beloved of the Lord. Your head perks up. That's me, you think. That's literally my entire job. But then he adds, only if they rise for noble labor, not common racket. Ouch. You blink slowly. Your eyelids are staging a rebellion. Your body leans left. Just a little. Just enough to rest your shoulder on the wall. And then, snore. You wake yourself with it. A quiet one, barely audible. But the priest hears, because of course he does. He stares. Everyone turns, even the goat. You disgrace the house of God, the priest says, voice like icicles stabbing your self-worth. You nod, apologetic. You try to say, I've been awake since 3 a.m. But your tongue betrays you and only produces a noise like a sleepy cow being slapped. Your mother covers her face. Your father sighs. Your sister smiles way too much. The priest calls for penance. You volunteer to clean the chapel floor, on your knees, with a rag, and gratitude, you scrub while others file out. One drops a coin in the alms box. You drop your pride down the drain. By the time you finish, it's dark. You're cold. You're soaked in holy water and floor grime. You shuffle home under the disapproving eye of the moon. You think, I wake the town. I wake the baker. I wake the judge. I wake the goat. And still, somehow, I'm the sinner. Because in this world, it's not enough to be tired. You must also feel bad about it. Amen. You're home, technically. But there's no comfort. Just a shared room with 7 souls, 3 fleas, and 1 aggressively judgmental chicken. You sit on the floor, legs stretched toward the dying fire like it owes you money. It does not pay up. Time to prepare for tomorrow. You pull out your list. It's more whole than parchment at this point. Water-stained, grease-marked, and half-written in what you hope is ink. You review the names. Baker, blacksmith, pig boy, Sir Geoffrey. Again. You underline that one. Twice. Next, your stick, your one true companion. It's splintered, bent, and smells faintly of mushroom stew, which is odd because you didn't have stew. You shave it with a rusty knife. Bad idea. You nick your finger. It bleeds just enough to remind you you're mortal, and just little enough that no one cares. You wrap it in a bit of cloth, not to protect the stick, to keep it from giving you tetanus. Again, you patch your cloak. Again, with twine, because thread is for people who don't spend their mornings dodging buckets of chamber pot juice. Your mother walks by and hands you a boiled potato. No words, just potato. You nod in reverence. You're not even hungry. It's just the gesture. You tuck it into your satchel. It's tomorrow's breakfast, lunch, and emotional support. Then you do what every respectable knocker-upper does at day's end. You cram straw into your shoes, for insulation, also for cushioning, also because your toes are starting to resemble very cold grapes. You check the weather, not with a forecast, with your joints. Your knees ache. That means rain, or plague, or both. You look around the room. Your siblings are already snoring in a pile of blankets. that smell like goat and lost hope. Your father is muttering about taxes again. Your mother is brushing her teeth with a rag and salt. You sigh. The seventh sigh today, a personal best. You lie down, diagonally, because the floor is slanted. The turnip sack is your pillow. The chicken hops onto your back. That's normal now. You close your eyes, but not all the way, because sleep is dangerous. Too much, and you miss the bell. Too little, and you hallucinate that the goat is your boss. Again. You whisper into the dark, tomorrow, same list, same stick, same ungrateful faces. And the room answers with silence. And a mouse chewing your shoelace, you drift into sleep. Not peace, just sleep, because peace is for saints. And you've got a window to tap at 3:45. It's late, too late to be awake, too early to be asleep. You lie there, flat on your back, staring at the wooden beams above you, each one carved with the slow graffiti of people who also couldn't sleep. A heart, a name, a crude drawing of a pig doing something anatomically implausible. The room is quiet, except it isn't. Someone's snoring. Someone's muttering. Someone's stomach is digesting something that wasn't technically food. You shift on the floorboards. There's a lump under your shoulder. You pray it's straw. You're wrong. It's the family spoon. You don't ask how it got there. The chicken settles near your neck, warm and twitchy. She smells like hay and ego. You're not friends. You're roommates. You pull the blanket higher. It smells like everyone who's ever used it, which is to say, feet. Sleep flirts with you. It bats its lashes, whispers soft promises, then disappears just as your eyes close. Your brain won't shut up. It replays the day. Every door slammed, every insult tossed, every footstep in the rain. It replays the future. Because yes, tomorrow is already waiting for you. It brought boots. You try a trick. Count sheep, but the sheep are cold. One of them bites you. You give up. Instead, you listen. To the wood creaking, to the rats scratching behind the wall, to the distant cough of a man 3 houses down who is probably dying of something old-timey and unsolvable. You reach over and touch your stick. It's beside you, wrapped in its cloth, like a tired sword. Still there, still yours, still the only thing in your life that behaves. You close your eyes again. You imagine a soft bed, a warm fire, a thank you note, all fiction. Instead, you get a cold floor, a chicken nightmare, and the subtle realization that your breath smells like turnip. You whisper into the straw, barely audible, sleep, or something like it. And the world answers with nothing, because it never does. Not for people like you. The first knock of morning hasn't happened yet, but it waits, coiled, like a wolf in your doorway, wearing the skin of responsibility. You're still on the floor, still curled beneath a blanket, with more holes than coverage. Your breath fogs in the air, white ghosts of fatigue drifting up toward a ceiling that's not listening. No one says it, but this is the part where most people break. Not during the cold, not during the work, not even during the public shaming over falling asleep in church. They break now, in the silence, when the world forgets them, and they almost forget themselves. You roll onto your side. Your hip complains. Your stick clatters to the floor. It's always nearby, because no one else remembers what you do. But that stick? It does. You used it to tap shutters, to chase off dogs, to poke your cousin awake when he fell asleep in the middle of the field and got bit by a goose. You never asked for glory, but a nod, a thank you. Just once? No. You are not a knight. You are not a scholar. You are not even interesting enough to be recorded in someone else's story. You are a knocker-upper, A human alarm clock with no buttons, no battery, and no rest mode. But here's the thing no one admits. Without you, the town doesn't move. The baker doesn't bake. The blacksmith doesn't hammer. The judge doesn't judge. The goat probably still does whatever it wants. But most people, they need you. You are a forgotten gear in a grand machine, too quiet to notice, too essential to remove. Your job is to make sure everyone wakes up, even when you never fully do. And tomorrow, you'll rise again, tap the first window before the sun has decided if it's worth showing up. Not because you're a hero, not because you're a martyr, but because you're part of something bigger, and someone, somewhere, needs to open their eyes. So you'll knock softly, then firmly, then forever. You wake up to a chicken pecking your face. Again, you don't own the chicken. Nobody does. She just decided your hay pile is the warmest place in the hut. And she's right. Because the rest of the hut, cold, damp. And it smells like something died under the floorboards in February and decided to stay. You open your eyes, and it's dark. Still. Because it's always dark now. Sun's been missing for a while. A year, maybe? No one's counting anymore. Clocks don't work without crops. Calendars mean nothing when the seasons forget to change. You sit up. The hay mattress groans under you. Not because it's old, though it is, but because it's soaked from the night air, and possibly from Cousin Merrick's toddler, who sleeps on the other end and never learned how to aim. You blink the crust from your eyes. It's not sleep, it's ash. Ash in the air, in your throat, in your teeth. Like the sky got drunk on sulfur and threw up on your village. Congratulations. You've survived until dawn. Barely. Your wife, Adla, is already awake. She's stirring something in a pot. You hope it's food. It's not. It's water with a boiled root in it. Maybe carrot, maybe rat. You don't ask anymore. You just swallow and pray you don't see it again later. Through your nose. The kids are bundled in the corner, under a blanket made of sheep's wool, goat's hair, and generational despair. They don't cry. Crying takes energy. You reach for your boots. They're frozen, not stiff, frozen. You hold one against your armpit to thaw it. It smells like mildew and tow. Adla doesn't look at you when she mutters, "You'll check the field again?" You nod. You've checked it every morning. For weeks. It's always the same. Mud. Rot. Maybe a bird pecking at something that used to be alive. But hope is a ritual here. Like prayer. Or failure. You step outside. The wind slaps your face like a drunk uncle. It brings the scent of wet dirt, wood smoke, and something sour. Maybe despair. Maybe your neighbor Rurik's soup. There's fog. Thick. Low-hanging. Unnatural. The elders say the sky's been cursed. The priest says it's punishment. The healer says it's a dust veil event. You don't know what that means, but it sounds smarter than angry sun god. The truth? A volcano exploded. Somewhere far away, you'll never know where. You'll just know it changed everything. It made June colder than January. It made breakfast optional. It made you aware of how loud your stomach is when there's nothing in it. You shuffle toward the field, not walk. Shuffle, because walking implies momentum, hope, direction. Shuffling is what you do when you've worn the same tunic for 3 seasons and your knees sound like cracked pottery. You pass Rurik. He's standing outside with a bowl, trying to catch condensation dripping from his roof. You nod. He nods. Neither of you speak. Talking wastes breath, and no one has spare breath. Down the road, someone coughs, the kind of cough that sounds wet, the kind that ends in a funeral, if you're lucky. If not, it just lingers, like mildew in your lungs. There used to be 40 people in the village. Now there are 23, and 4 of them are mostly bones who still sit upright near the fire, because no one has time to bury. You reach the field, or what used to be a field. It's a gray patch of mud with dead stalks leaning like drunks against each other. Nothing's growing. Nothing will. Not without sun. Not with this much cold. Not with the topsoil blown off by ash and replaced by what looks like black flour, but tastes like regret. You kneel and dig your hand into the earth. It sucks your fingers in like it's hungry too. You pull up a sprout. It breaks, rotten inside. You want to scream, but you don't, because screaming is for people with hope left to lose. You remember when this field fed 12 families. Now it feeds crows, but not today. Even the crows have moved on, too smart to stay. You stand there, ankle deep in mud, with frost gathering on your eyelashes in July. And for 1 second, you let yourself imagine what normal used to feel like. Sunlight, bread, a wife who smiles, children who play. But imagining is dangerous. It makes the return to reality worse. So you exhale and whisper the village motto, though no one wrote it down. Maybe tomorrow. Then you head back home, back to the chicken, back to the root water, back to another day, just like this one. You make it back to your hut. You wipe your boots on the threshold, not because it helps, everything is already muddy, but because it feels like control. Like a rule you can still follow when nothing else makes sense. Inside, it's warm. Not cozy warm, not happy warm, just slightly warmer than death. Adla hands you a bowl. It's something. You tilt it, and the contents slosh slowly, like they're trying to decide if they're solid or liquid or sentient. You sniff, it's sour, smoky, and faintly sweet. You ask, what's in it? She says, don't ask. You eat it anyway, because refusing food is for rich people and dead ones. And you're neither. Yet the texture is like mashed bark, but greasier. There's a chunk you bite into that crunches, but not in a good way. You swallow. It scratches on the way down. Your youngest, Freya, stares at you with her big, silent eyes. She doesn't ask for a bite. She knows better. You hand her the rest. She doesn't say thank you, but she holds the bowl like treasure. You sit down on the 3-legged stool that's mostly duct tape and hope. It leans to the left, just like your back does, ever since the shoveling incident of 534. You stretch. Something pops, probably important. Adla is spinning wool. Again. Not because she wants to, but because it keeps her hands from shaking. Cousin Sten came by, she says without looking up. You grunt. He said the village next over lost all their goats, poisoned grass. You grunt again. Then she says, he asked if we've thought about selling the baby goat. You freeze. You only have 1 goat left. And yes, it's technically a baby. And yes, she drinks more milk than she gives. But she's soft and warm. And your daughter named her Apple. And right now, Apple is the closest thing this family has to a blanket, a pet, and a therapist. You say, we'll think about it, which is medieval code for over my dead body. Outside, you hear someone shouting, it's Old Leaf. You step out again. because in a village of 23, any shouting is breaking news. Leaf is standing in front of his shed, holding a dead pigeon. He's smiling. Why? Because this is food, and not the maybe edible kind. This is meat, actual, chewable protein. He waves it above his head, like a trophy. People gather. Within minutes, there's a huddle, quiet arguing, whispered numbers. They're bidding for a pigeon. In 534, people gave pigeons names. Now, they're currency. Someone offers a sack of barley. Someone else, a pair of boots. You offer nothing because you have nothing. So you step back. Rurik wins the bid with an onion and a broken comb. You watch him walk off like he just bought a horse. Your stomach growls, not politely. It roars. You pretend you didn't hear it. But Adla did, and Freya did, and so did the chicken. The chicken looks smug. Back inside, your daughter is drawing something in the ash near the hearth. It's a sun. You almost tell her to stop, because the sun is a sore subject these days. But you let her. Let her pretend. Let her forget that she's growing up in a world where July feels like late October, where crops refuse to rise, and where your entire future is measured in how long a root can last in a damp cellar. You used to fear war. Now you fear mildew. You used to worry about taxes. Now you'd kill to owe someone something. You used to dream. Now you survive. Suddenly, a loud knock. Not a tap, a knock. Sharp, fast, intentional. You freeze, because no one knocks anymore. They barge in, or they die outside. You open the door. It's the parish priest. He's wet, he's pale, and he's holding a scroll. Not good. Scrolls mean messages. Messages mean taxes, or conscription, or worse, hope. He clears his throat. In the name of our Lord, you are summoned to fast and pray. 3 days. No food, no water, just repentance for the darkness. You stare. You almost laugh. Because you've already been fasting for 3 months. What else can you repent for? Surviving? But you nod. Because not nodding means suspicion. Suspicion leads to whispers. Whispers lead to fire. And fire leads to the thing that happened to Helga, 2 villages over. You don't talk about Helga anymore. So you nod. And you say, God willing. And the priest nods back. Then he looks at your daughter's sun drawing and says, that's not appropriate, and scrapes it away with his boot. Your daughter doesn't cry. She just draws a smaller one in the corner after he leaves, in the ash, behind the fire, where he won't see, where only you see. And suddenly, despite the cold and the hunger and the pigeon auction and the dying fields, you feel warm just for a second. 3 rats, 1 bold, 1 fast, 1 missing an eye. You lock eyes with the bold one. It does not blink. You reach for a stick. You don't have one. So you whisper, please just take the old oats. Because fighting rats over spoiled grain is now part of your daily routine. You check the sacks. 1 is soaked through. 1 is covered in droppings. 1 is moving. You step back. You sigh. Then you laugh. Softly, bitterly. It's time to check the grain cellar. You're not excited. No one's ever said, oh joy, let's descend into the damp dirt hole where our last hope is stored beside rats the size of geese. But that's what you're doing. The cellar is a pit beneath the house, dug out by ancestors who thought maybe the future will be better. They were wrong. You lift the hatch. The wood creaks. Damp, moldy, smells like wet sock and onion regret. You grab the torch. It's half burnt. You light it anyway. The smoke stings your eyes immediately. Great, you descend, step by step. Wooden ladder, slippery with condensation. You don't fall. Yet at the bottom, it's cold, wet, quiet, except for the scuttling. You shine the light toward the far corner. Yep, because if you don't laugh, you scream. And screaming scares the children. You climb back up. You tell Adla, "We have enough until next Tuesday." You don't mention the rats. She doesn't ask. Married silence is a skill. You both sit for a moment, listening to the wind rattle the shutters. And then, squelch, the sound of something heavy stepping into thick mud outside. You peek through the wooden slat. It's your neighbor, Gudrun. She's sunk halfway into the road. Again, the mud in front of your home isn't normal mud. It's deeper, meaner, alive. You call it the pit. No one knows why it formed. Some say underground spring. Others say curse. You say it's a metaphor for life, for the future, for the way everything swallows you when you try to move forward. You grab the rope, not to rescue her. That never works. The rope is just a gesture. You toss it. It lands 2 feet away from her hand, close enough to imply effort, far enough to preserve your dignity. She yells something about your aim. You yell back something about her being heavier this year. She laughs and keeps trudging, because in 536, if you can insult each other across a bog, you're practically family. Back inside, you peel off your boots. They slop like drowned pigs. You try to dry them near the hearth, but they just steam, like they're releasing the ghost of every bad decision you've made since sowing barley in a year without sunlight. Freya asks, "Can we visit Aunt Tyra?" You almost choke, because Aunt Tyra lives 3 villages away, and the road is gone, not destroyed, gone. Like the earth itself gave up on maintaining it. Travel is for fools and corpses now, you say. Not today, sweetling. She nods. She's 5. She already understands disappointment like a professional. You glance at the sky, still gray, still wrong. You whisper to yourself, just one ray, just a sliver. But no, nothing breaks the cloud, nothing warms your skin, nothing even hints at the idea that light is a real thing, and not just a myth. Old people made up to keep you compliant. You grab your cloak. It's heavy, damp, smells like goat. Because it was a goat, a very angry one. Back when you skinned it during the frost of 535, you step outside again because you need to check on Apple, the goat, the emotional backbone of your household. She's chewing on something near the fence. You hope it's not wood. You hope it is food. She sees you. She bleats. It sounds like sarcasm. You scratch her ears. She nibbles your sleeve. For one moment, you feel normal, until she sneezes ash into your face. You go back in. You sit. You watch the fire. It's low. The wood is wet. You poke it anyway, because poking is action, and action is control. Adla sits beside you. You don't speak. Because what's there to say? You're hungry. You're cold. The world is broken, but you're still here. Together. And Apple. And Freya. And even the smug chicken. You think, maybe tomorrow. But you don't say it, because it's morning. And saying that in the morning is too much like hope, and hope is dangerous, especially before breakfast. If you can even call that thing you ate breakfast, it's just past midday. Not that you can tell. The sun is still missing, like it owes you money in Skip Town. The sky is the color of old dishwater. Again, the air smells like wet wool. cold ash, and unspoken disappointment. You decide it's time to check the field, which is peasant code for go stand in dirt and pretend you're doing something useful. You grab your hoe. It's dull, bent, more of a vague metal suggestion than a real tool. You named it Gertrude years ago, out of loneliness. She's your third most stable relationship, right after Adla and the goat. As you walk to the field, your boot squelches in rhythm. Step, squelch, regret, step, squelch, regret. Every footfall is an opportunity to lose a shoe, your balance, or the will to go on. The path used to be cobbled. Now it's just muck, ankle-deep, soul-thickening, hope-swallowing muck. You pass young Arnie, trying to lift a cart from a puddle that may be sentient. You don't help, because you did that yesterday, and the cart still hasn't moved. You wave. He waves back, with the expression of someone who's forgotten what dry feels like. You reach the field. It's bleak. There's no grass, just stalks, gray, frost-burned, hunched like old men with secrets. The ground looks like someone tried to cook it and forgot to stop. You take your hoe, Gertrude, and give the earth a whack. Nothing. No give, no softness. It's like digging into a cold loaf of yesterday's sin. You try again. A rock. You sigh. You dig anyway. You plant 6 seeds. Oats. Maybe barley. Honestly, the sacks got mixed months ago. One seed splits in half when it hits the ground. Another bounces off and rolls into a crack. One gets taken by a bird. You plant the rest anyway. Because hope isn't something you feel. It's something you do, out of spite. You squat there, in your mud-patched tunic, under a sky that forgot how to shine, digging holes for seeds that won't grow. You are, in every possible way, a metaphor. You are also starting to lose feeling in your toes, but you keep going, because that's the deal. Suddenly you hear music. No, chanting. You look up. It's the procession. The fasting monks, draped in wet robes, singing to the sky like it owes them back rent. They pass by the field in a line, holding candles that flicker like they're trying to quit. You pause your digging. They don't pause their walking. You meet the eyes of one of them. His look says, "We're saving the world." Your look says, "Cool, I'm trying to grow dinner." Neither of you is winning. They leave. The silence returns. It's heavier than before. So you talk to Gertrude. You say, "They say we're being punished." She doesn't answer. You keep digging anyway. Then comes the wind. Not the fun kind. Not the breeze that smells like apples kind. This is volcanic wind. Dry, bitter, full of ash. It whips across your face, pulls your hood back, fills your nose with burnt dust and regret. You cough. Your cough scares a squirrel. The squirrel scares a bird. The bird poops on your last good sock. You nod. As expected, you finish the row. It's crooked, uneven, ugly. It's perfect, because everything else in your life is too. You press your foot against the last mound of dirt. Say a silent prayer to no one in particular. Then you look up at the sky and whisper, "Try again tomorrow." You wipe your hands on your tunic. Big mistake. Now your tunic smells like fermented compost and old feet. Not that it was pleasant before. But now it's aggressive. You shrug. You've smelled worse. Your uncle, for example. You miss him. He died last spring, fell into the pit. They never recovered the body. But sometimes, on cold nights, the mud gurgles in a way that sounds like his name. You walk back to the hut. Your back aches. Your knees click. Your soul whimpers softly into the void. Adla is outside, pounding flour, except it's not flour. It's dried moss, bark, and something green you're pretty sure used to be rope. You ask, "How's the bread?" She says, "Depends on how much you like chewing." You smile. You haven't smiled since Candle Month. It feels foreign, like a luxury, like a memory from a different body. But it happens because you're still alive, and that's something. You're trying to fix the fence, not because it matters. There's nothing left to keep in or out, but because it gives your hand something to do while your brain unravels quietly. The fence used to keep goats in. Now, it's just decoration. And by decoration, you mean splintered wood held together by twine, prayers, and probably mold. You tie a knot. It comes undone. You tie it again. It breaks. You throw the rope. It lands on your foot. You consider burning the fence, not for warmth, just for closure. Then you hear bells, tiny, delicate, judgmental bells, church bells, from Father Yorand. He's making his rounds. You sigh the sigh of someone who has nothing left to lose but still gets taxed. He approaches in full clerical fashion. Black robe, sandals that squeak, a walking stick carved with symbols no one understands but everyone fears. He smiles like a man who hasn't eaten turnip stew for the last 14 days. You immediately brace yourself for either a sermon or a request, or both. He begins, "Blessings upon this household." You look behind you to make sure he's not talking to the chicken. Nope, just you. You nod. He continues, "The Lord has sent this darkness to test our faith, to remind us to humble ourselves, fast, and give." You nod again, not because you agree, but because disagreeing means you'll be on poop pit duty at the next penance festival. Then comes the real reason he's here. The church is collecting donations for the poor. You blink. You are the poor. You used to donate. Now you ration moss with your daughter. But Father Yorand is still staring at you with the hopeful eyes of someone who once got an extra egg in his bowl of soup and called it divine intervention. You go inside. You grab the only thing you can offer, half a wheel of cheese. It's gray, not because it's fancy, because it's moldy. He takes it, says it will feed the hungry. You don't ask who. You don't ask when, because asking questions means he might stay longer. Before he leaves, he sprinkles holy water over your doorstep, which is nice, except it's not holy water. It's just water. You know because you saw him fill it from the goat trough 2 hours ago. But hey, blessings are blessings, even if they smell faintly of goat pee. You go back to the fence. It's still broken. You sit on a stump. The stump is wet, because of course it is. Your stomach growls, not politely, but like a beast. Like something from the woods, come to reclaim its territory. You look at the sky, still no sun. You mutter, "I'd eat you if I could." The sky doesn't answer, which is just as well, because if the sky did talk back, that would be worse. You decide to forage, because foraging is free. You grab your sack and head to the woods. The woods are quiet, too quiet, like they're watching you. You whistle, but it comes out shaky, not because you're scared, but because you haven't had enough calories to produce proper airflow. You look for mushrooms. You find 3. 1 might be edible. 1 definitely isn't. 1 is growing out of something. Dead. You take all 3, because desperation is the mother of bad decisions. You also find a handful of berries. You squint. Black, blue, deadly. You sniff. They smell like sadness. You taste one. It tastes like battery acid and bad ideas. You keep them anyway, because maybe poison is still better than definitely starving. On the way back, you trip over a root. You fall, face first into mud. You lay there for a moment, letting the cold soak into your shirt, thinking, this is fine, because honestly, it is. It's not the worst part of your day, not even close. You get back, Adla is trying to boil water. The fire is small, the wood is wet, the pot is cracked, but the effort is there. You hand her the sack. She looks inside. She doesn't say anything, just nods, because in 536, even the possibility of food is worth respecting. You all sit together. You, Adla, Freya, Apple, the goat, and the chicken, who refuses to leave. You eat what you found, a soup of maybe mushroom, a side of guilt berries, a prayer that your stomach won't punish you for it later. It's not good, but it's something, Freya says. Will the sun come back tomorrow? You say, maybe. Adla says, don't promise things. You say nothing, because what is hope, if not the most dangerous spice? You sit in silence. The kind of silence that's not peaceful, just tired. The kind of silence that says, we're still here, and that has to count for something. The smell hits you before the knock. It's not the usual village stink, goat breath, unwashed boots, or Aunt Svala's infamous turnip stew. No, this is sharper, sour, a little sweet, a little wrong. You know that smell. You've smelled it too many times this year. It's decay. Then comes the knock. Slow, heavy. The kind of knock that doesn't ask permission. It announces consequences. You open the door. It's Thorlak, tall, pale, eyes sunken like he's seen the devil. Or worse, another tax collector. He's wrapped in furs but shaking. His beard is frozen. His boots are bare. You don't ask why. You just step aside. Because in 536, when someone shows up at your door, you let them in. If they're alive, they need help. If they're not, you really let them in. Before they start knocking again, he doesn't speak at first. He just sits. You give him water. He drinks like a man trying to forget what he's seen. You finally say, what happened? His voice is gravel soaked in grief. It took the whole household. You blink. Who? My wife, my boys, even the baby. How? The cold, the dark, the hunger. Pick one. He doesn't cry. He's past that. He just leans forward, heavy, like his bones are filled with lead. You make soup, not real soup. Hot water with ash and courage. You serve him the biggest bowl. He drinks, says nothing. Then finally, I buried them this morning. You nod, not because you understand, but because it's all you can do. He continues, I said the words, the ones the priest taught, even lit a candle. Did it help? No, but the smoke kept the rats off their faces. You don't have a response for that. So you sit beside him and watch the fire burn low. Freya climbs into your lap. She whispers, is he staying? You nod. She nods back. No fear, no questions, just resignation. The most common emotion in 536. Thorlak falls asleep sitting up, mouth open, hands twitching. You tuck a blanket around him. It smells like goat. Everything smells like goat. You consider lighting more wood, but you only have 3 logs left. One for tonight, one for tomorrow, one for when it really matters. You let the fire die a little. Outside, the clouds shift. Not break, not clear, just shift. For 1/2 second, the sky lightens from ash gray to cement gray. Freya gasps, is that the sun? You look, squint, shake your head. No, love, that's just wishful thinking. She nods, then draws a new sun in the ash with her finger. This one has a face. It's smiling. You don't know whether to laugh or weep, so you do both. Quietly, Adla says, "If Thorlak stays, we need more food." You nod, because of course you do. Then she says, "We could trade the cloak." You pause, your goat fur cloak. The one that saved your life during the frostbite storm of 535. You love that cloak. It is, arguably, your most successful relationship. But love doesn't feed people. You nod again. You bundle the cloak. You kiss it goodbye. You whisper, "Thank you for your service." Then you walk to the trade hut. The trade hut is manned by Henrik the Unbothered. He's never smiled. No one's sure if he can. You offer the cloak. He inspects it like it insulted his mother, then grunts. He gives you 2 salted fish, half a cabbage, and a chunk of something you pray is cheese. You say, "That's it?" He says, "Take it or eat your cloak." You take it, because even a questionable cheese brick beats hypothermia. Back home, you make dinner. The cabbage boils, the fish stews, the cheese melts and reforms as something new and suspicious. You feed everyone, even the chicken, even Thorlak, especially Thorlak, because he's still breathing. And in this year, that's reason enough. After dinner, you go outside. You sit on the stump again. It's still wet, but now it's familiar. You look up. The stars aren't there. They haven't been for weeks, but you imagine them. Dots of light, tiny beacons, impossible, distant, but real, maybe. And you whisper to the sky, "We're still here." And for now, that's enough. It's dinner time, which in 536 means you stare into a pot and pretend something inside it might love you. It doesn't. It never has. You stir slowly. The soup is more sound than substance. It gurgles, not a happy gurgle, more like the death rattle of a dream. Inside the pot, 2 carrots, 4 turnip skins, a slice of questionable cheese, 1 suspicious mushroom, and exactly 7 regrets. You call it root stew. Adla calls it boiled disappointment. Freya calls it Tuesday. The fire is small. The pot is cracked. The ladle is a wooden spoon with ambition. You serve the bowls. Carefully, you scrape from the bottom, where the flavor lives, aka the part slightly burnt. Freya gets the least, because she's the smallest. Thorlak gets the most, because he's still grieving. You get what's left, because that's how leadership works. The family eats in silence. Each chew is slow, meditative, painful. The cheese didn't melt properly. It's now a chewy blob that clings to your molars like emotional trauma. Freya chews once, then swallows whole. Adla dips her bread in the broth. It disintegrates on contact. She still eats it because standards are a pre-famine concept. Thorlak stares at his bowl, not eating, just looking. You say, "It's warm." He nods. "So was my wife." You don't answer, because some grief doesn't want company. After dinner, it's time for chores? Yes, chores. Because despair doesn't excuse mildew. You scrape the pot. You save the burnt bits in a cloth. Adla will use it tomorrow, as stock, which is medieval for boiled ash water, with a hint of yesterday's sorrow. Freya gathers kindling. She returns with 4 twigs and a look of triumph. You pretend it's enough, because crushing a child's spirit is frowned upon. Even now, you milk Apple the goat. She's moody. She headbutts you once. You take it as affection, or revenge for the cloak. You still haven't told her. You don't plan to. The chicken lays an egg. Miracle. You hold it up like a holy relic. Thorlax stares at it like it's salvation. You give it to Freya. She smiles. The room gets 3% warmer. Then comes the knocking. Again. Only this time, it's not slow and sad. It's fast. Sharp, urgent, you freeze. Because no one knocks like that unless someone's died. Something's burning. Or the priest wants another cheese wheel. You open the door. It's Rurik, panting, covered in sweat. Eyes wide like he's seen a ghost. Or worse. Another tax hike. He says one word. Fire. You don't ask whose. You just grab a bucket. Not because it will help, but because not grabbing one means you gave up. And giving up is for people who haven't eaten cheese stew with strangers in their house. You run toward the smoke? Freya yells behind you, "Be safe." You yell back, "I'll try." What you mean is, I'll try not to catch on fire, inhale too much smoke, or step in something with teeth. You reach the edge of the village. It's Sten's house. Of course it is. Sten always stored hay too close to the hearth because it dries faster, he said. Now it's drying faster than ever. People form a line. Buckets pass hand to hand. Water sloshes, shouts echo. Someone's robe catches fire. They stop, drop, and roll into a pig trough. Pig is not impressed. You throw water. You scream. You cough. Smoke fills your nose, your eyes, your everything. It smells like burning regret. But eventually, miracle of miracles, the flames die. The roof collapses. But the hut is mostly saved. By medieval standards, that's a huge win. Sten weeps, not because of the fire, because he dropped his only turnip in the chaos. You pat his shoulder. He hugs you. It's sweaty and emotionally complicated, but you accept it, because in 536, physical contact is rare and borderline sacred. You walk home. Your tunic stinks of smoke and effort. Your hands are raw. Your face is streaked with ash. You look like a ghost. You feel like a candle someone forgot to blow out. Freya meets you at the door. She holds the egg, untouched. "We saved it," she says. You smile. Then say the truest thing you've said all year. That egg is worth more than gold, and you mean it, because it's warm, because it's whole, because it reminds you that life, however small, still chooses to go on, even when the sun won't, even when the earth gives up, even when you're tired of trying. You sit beside the fire. You close your eyes, and for once, you let yourself imagine light. The fire is low, lower than it should be, lower than it's safe to be. But wood is wood, and you're fresh out. Unless you count the chicken coop, your daughter's toy, or your neighbor's fence. You've thought about all three. Adla wraps herself in the blanket. Freya curls up beside her. Apple the goat flops down like a hairy old rug. The chicken perches on your knee like you're the world's least dignified throne. Thorlax snores. Loud, sudden, tragic. You poke the fire. The embers flare like they want to live. You whisper, "Me too." Outside, the wind howls. Not metaphorically. Literally, like it's angry you're still alive. You stuff rags in the cracks in the wall. They do nothing. You do it anyway, because doing something keeps the panic away. The shadows grow longer, but the darkness isn't empty. It's watching. You feel it, not with your eyes, but your spine. Your neck prickles. Your gut tightens. You glance at the window. It's just black glass, but your brain swears it saw something move. You say to Adla, "Did you hear that?" She doesn't answer. She's asleep or pretending. You're not sure which is worse. You check the door. It's barred. You check the shutters. They creak. You mutter, stay shut. They ignore you because they're wood. And this is 5:36. Suddenly, a thump, not loud, but heavy, above you. On the roof, you freeze. Everyone freezes. Even the chicken stops breathing. Then, another thump, a slow dragging sound. Scrape, creak, shuffle, like something big, or worse, many somethings. You grab your pitchfork. It's dull, short, decorative almost, but it's all you've got. You whisper to Adla, "Wake Freya." She nods. No words, because this is fear that doesn't talk. You step outside, into the cold, into the dark, into the unknown, because someone has to. And apparently, you're the adult here. Lucky you. You circle the hut. It's quiet. Too quiet. You hate that phrase. It's always true. And always followed by a screech. You flinch. Something bolts from the roof. A flash of fur. A flutter of wings. You don't scream. You just say, "Oh." Then sigh. Ravens. Big ones. Fat from scraps and fearless from famine. They stare at you, unblinking, like they're waiting for your funeral. You wave your arms. They don't move. You throw a rock. They scatter, but not far, just to the fence, still watching, still hungry. You stare back. "Not today," you mutter, then add louder, "I'm not compost yet." They blink, fly off. For now, you go back inside. You're shaking, from cold, from nerves, from the adrenaline wearing off like a cheap tunic. Adla asks, "What was it?" You say, "Birds." She nods, then says, "This time." You sit down. Thorlak hasn't moved. Freya is back asleep. You're jealous. You wish your nightmares came after sleep. You add the last twig to the fire. It pops weakly. You say to the flame, "Do your best." It doesn't answer, but it burns. For now, you close your eyes, try to drift, but the silence presses in. The dark is too loud, too heavy, so you open them again and stare into the coals. They glow. They fade. They remind you of everything you've lost and everything you're still clinging to by splinters and threads and stubbornness. You hear something again. Not outside. Inside. A creak. A click. You tense, then realize it's the cupboard, shifting in the cold, or maybe the ghost of a better year. You don't check. You just whisper, "Tomorrow, maybe," and lean back into the dark. It's the dead of night now. The hour where time forgets how to move, where the fire barely glows, where every creak sounds like judgment, where your breath fogs in the air inside the house, because outside isn't just cold, it's a dare. You lie down, on your hay pile, which is damp, again, still, forever. There's a lump under your back. Might be a rock. Might be your last spine disc given up. You don't adjust, you just accept it, because comfort, like warmth, is a memory you're not sure was ever real. Freya stirs. She whimpers. You hum to her. Not a song, just a noise, low, repetitive, like an apology that's run out of words. She sighs, falls back asleep. You don't. Your thoughts are loud, too loud. They say things like, what if next year is worse? What if the sun never returns? What if the goat dies? What if you're the last one who remembers what green looked like? You hate those thoughts, but they visit nightly, uninvited, unrelenting, like taxes, or your cousin Inga. The wind howls again, this time higher, like it's searching for something. You pull the blanket tighter, but it's thin. and has more holes than hope. You close your eyes, then you smell something smoke. Not good smoke, bad smoke, like old wood burning wrong. Like you bolt upright. The chimney, you rush to the hearth. The flame has climbed. The soot is hot. The wall is crackling. You panic. Adla wakes. Fire? You nod. She grabs Freya. You grab a bucket. There's barely water left. You throw it anyway. Steam rises. You beat the wall with the rag. The flame hisses. Then dies. Barely. Silence. Adla exhales. You do too. No words. Just that look. The one that says, that was close. Again. Always. You sit back. Soaked. Sooty. Ash in your teeth. The house smells like boiled fear. Freya mumbles, is it morning yet? You glance at the window. Still black. You whisper, soon. But that's a lie. Because soon has stopped meaning anything. You sit by the hearth, hug your knees, feel your breath in your chest like frost and fatigue. Adla leans on your shoulder. You say, remember when we used to dance? She smiles, barefoot, on grass. You both laugh, soft, sad, like people remembering a song from before they had teeth. Then Freya speaks again. Can we plant tomorrow? You pause. Adla starts to answer, but you stop her. You think, you breathe, you say, yes, not because you believe it, but because she needs you to, and because even a lie, spoken gently, can sound like hope. You lie back down. This time, you don't fight the discomfort. You let it hold you, like a bad friend, one you've known too long to leave now. The chicken shifts at your feet. The goat snores. Thorlak mumbles something in his sleep. Maybe a prayer, maybe a recipe. You close your eyes. One more time. And tell yourself, if I make it to morning, I'll plant something, even if it dies, even if I do, because trying is all I have left. And outside, the dark waits, not kindly, not cruelly, just there, heavy, endless, but not eternal. Probably, you wake up to silence, not peace, just absence. No rooster, no wind, no fire crackle. Even the chicken is quiet, which is suspicious. You sit up. Your back cracks like a brittle oath. The blanket has fallen off. Your breath fogs in front of you. You look at the window. Still dark. Still lying. You step outside just to check. The sky? Same. Like wet ash smothering the world. You don't bother squinting. The sun's not late. It's missing. You return inside. The house smells like old wood, smoke, and something that might be despair, stew. Thorlak's gone. Left some time before dawn. He didn't say goodbye. Didn't take anything. Just left. That's normal now. People leave like that. Quiet. Final. Adla says, maybe he went to the river. You nod. Even though you both know, nobody goes to the river anymore, because the river is gone, dried up, or choked with mud, or cursed. Pick one. You sit down. Freya is drawing again. Another sun. This one has legs, and a sword. You ask, what's it doing? She says, coming back to fight the dark. You smile, even though it hurts. Even though smiling pulls muscles that haven't been used since spring. You decide to plant something. You promised. And in 536, promises are currency. You head to the field. The mud greets you like an old frenemy. You kneel, dig. The soil is harder than yesterday. Colder. Angrier. You press the seeds into it anyway. With hands that shake. With hope that hurts. You whisper, grow. Not because it will help, but because it's all you can offer. Suddenly, a cough. Behind you. You turn. It's Inga, your cousin, the one who left 2 winters ago with a fur trader and a prayer. She looks thin, tired, alive. She smiles, says, "He died." "I didn't." You nod. You don't ask for details. You just gesture to the house. Over the next hour, you give her half a potato. She gives you half a story. Adla finds clean cloth. Freya braids her hair. The goat farts once and leaves the room. It feels like a feast. It feels like a reunion. It feels like life. That evening, you sit together by the fire. 5 bodies. 1 flame. 1 egg left. You don't cook it. You just have it. Like a secret. Like a blessing. Like proof that not everything dies. Freya leans on Inga. Apple rests her head on your foot. Adla hums. No song, just noise. But it fills the room like sunlight used to. You close your eyes and say, to no one in particular, maybe we'll make it. Not loud, not strong, but real. And that's enough. Morning. Or something like it. No birdsong, no sunrise. Just a sky that's less dark than usual. You'll take it. You wake before the others. Not because you're rested, because the cold said, up. Your joints groan. Your back protests. Your soul sighs. You rise anyway, because that's what you do. You rise even when nothing else does. You step outside. The air bites, but it doesn't maul. That's progress. You walk to the field, because now it's a ritual, a stubborn little rebellion, a prayer in dirt. You check the ground. No sprouts. Of course not. But something's changed. The frost is thinner, the soil softer. You don't say anything. You just kneel and press your hand to the earth. It's almost warm, not quite, but enough to make you wonder. What if? Back home, Inga's awake. She's making tea, not real tea, boiled pine needles and melted snow. But it smells good, and smell is memory, and memory is a kind of feast. Adla mends your tunic. Freya hums to the chicken. The goat is chewing on the broom again. It's all so normal, which feels dangerous, like smiling during a funeral, but you let it be. Because this quiet, this peace, isn't fake. It's fragile, but it's real. The priest visits. Yes, that priest, he says, the darkness is ending. We believe it was punishment, but mercy is coming. You nod. Not because you agree, but because today you don't want to argue with a man who carries a stick and thinks candles fix famine. He hands you bread. Actual bread. You almost cry. You don't. Because dignity. And salt burns. That night, the fire burns brighter. The stew is thicker. The silence is soft. Freya shows you a new drawing. It's a tree, with leaves, green ones, she says, for next year. You say nothing, but inside, something aches. Not from pain, from remembering that you once had dreams, and maybe, just maybe, you could again. You lie down. Same hay, same blanket. But tonight, the cold stays outside, and for the first time in forever, you sleep. No nightmares, no frostbite, no rats, just a dream of light, of grass, of a sun that rises and stays. Because here's the truth. You weren't the knight. You weren't the king. You weren't the poet. You didn't write history. You survived it. And maybe, just maybe, That's enough.